Hello and welcome to the Allergy and Free From chat with me, Ben Corbett. It's Series 2, Episode 4. And this month we have psychologist Jess from Allergy UK, Head of Clinical Services, Amena Warner, and then a cook-along with Allergy Girl Eats and co-founder of Zest, Kortney Kwong Hing. But before we dive into all of that, I just want to draw your attention to a competition being run by our friends at Hunt and Gather. Whether you're paleo, keto, gluten-free, low-carb, banting, sugar-free, dairy-free, or just simply love great tasting food that's made with real food ingredients, you'll want to win this bundle that includes the full range of their new unsweetened sauces. Simply click on the link in the video description to find out how to enter. Okay, but back to today's show. I'd like to introduce first to the virtual studio, psychologist. Okay, we're just having to grab Jess from the backstage area, and hopefully here she is. There she is.
Hi.
How are you doing, Jess?
You're afraid for a moment, I worry. I'm fine, thanks. How are you doing?
No, we're all good. We're all good. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
No worries. So first of all, I guess, could you tell our viewers a little about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I'm a business psychologist and a women's leadership coach. I'm chartered and I'm an associate of the British Psychological Society. When I'm not working with corporate clients on employee engagement or leadership development programs, which I run online now, obviously, I'm coaching one-to-one clients and mostly women, to be honest, but a few men as well. And I usually focus on issues around low confidence, sometimes around anxiety and stress. I always love speaking about things like self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, and the inner critic, because I am an expert self-critic and I know those things really well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you today about some of the impacts of having allergies on our mental well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I guess as someone that talks a lot about anxiety and stuff like that, works very much in that sort of arena, have you noticed sort of a change in the challenges that people are facing generally since the start of the pandemic? Do you think that brings out people's anxieties more, perhaps?
Yeah, it really has. I think, there's normally a baseline. I don't know if that's looking the right way on screen, but if you imagine that's a chart, a graph, and our baseline level of anxiety is much higher for everybody at the moment than it has been pre-Brexit, I suppose, especially pre-COVID. I think I run a free 5-day program, and it's called Taming Inner Critic, and I've had a significant number of people, 150 people signed up to this round, and a significant number of them are worried about the reality of life, whereas before I was working with clients around anxiety, and normally it would be just perceived threat, not just, but perceived threat, like something terrible is going to happen, but actually that thing probably won't ever happen, and you're just worried about it, which is what anxiety tends to be. But now we have this real threat. My conversations are much deeper and much more honest, I think, as well, for that reason. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess, moving on to obviously allergies, which is what generally we talk about on the show. I talk a lot about sort of the physical challenges, the practical challenges of living with allergies, but the mental health aspect is also like a really major part of what people cope with day to day, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've been, obviously, since I don't normally talk about allergies, so that's not my speciality, but certainly I've been thinking about how we cope with things that are unexpected, or how we tend to react when our body isn't doing what it should be doing, and I think that in itself can cause anxiety. So, if you're thinking, let me explain something in simple terms for a moment that maybe some of the viewers have already come across previously. It's the ABC method. So it's based on cognitive behavioral therapy. And it suggests very simply there's an A, B, and a C. The A is the antecedent, it's the trigger. And your trigger might be having a recent diagnosis of an allergy, or your trigger might be sneezing in front of the supermarket, when you haven't got any tissues or something. Whatever response your body's having, it's unexpected. And this trigger causes beliefs and thoughts. And those beliefs and thoughts might be helpful. They might be, let's take the sneezing outside the supermarket example, might be, oh, I need to find some tissues, or maybe I've got, something I could use, or, whatever, maybe I can go and go back to the car and, at least sneeze in the privacy of my own car or something. So there might be helpful thoughts, but often, unfortunately, they're normally unhelpful thoughts, like I'm embarrassing myself. Why am I doing this? What's caused this? Is it going to get worse? Is it ever going to stop? What are the people around me thinking? And I can almost feel the anxiety coming up when I'm giving you that example. And the C is the consequence of this. And it's a natural automatic thought process, I'm afraid, this kind of cycle, the ABC. So we can't stop it, but we can get to know it. And the C is very much around the consequences of the trigger and your beliefs and thoughts about that, and your emotional and behavioral and physiological response to the situation, or rather to the thoughts you're having. So if you're having the helpful thought, actually, maybe I need to go and grab some tissues, or go back to the car, forget the long queue I've been waiting in for an hour to get into the supermarket, I'll just get back to the car. Your consequence is going to be a helpful behavior. You're going to find some safety and somewhere where you feel more relaxed. But if you're having those unhelpful beliefs and thoughts, like people are, I'm embarrassing myself, I don't know if this is ever going to stop, that's only going to exacerbate the sense of anxiety and stress in that moment.
Yeah, no, I totally follow that, and particularly with sort of airborne allergies and sort of that sort of thing, I can really see how that would helpful to think of it in that way. But I guess another sort of situation, if I was to put to you, like with food allergies, for example, where the consequence could be really, really quite serious, where if someone they know they've got a dinner coming up or something like that, where they're going to be eating out, and they've sort of taken the precautions that they need to, they've spoken to the restaurant about their allergies, that sort of thing. I guess in that sort of situation, it can be perhaps more difficult because the consequences can be much more severe. Yeah,
and I think there are a number of different coping mechanisms you might want to put in place, Ben, in that scenario. You might want to phone ahead, definitely, and do make sure you've kind of covered all of those angles to make sure that the food's safe for you to eat, and then the environment you're going to be eating. But perhaps it's as simple as saying to the people you're going to have dinner with, should the worst case scenario happen, this is what you should do. Please don't panic, but actually in my bag I have this piece of paper that tells you exactly what to do. If I have a fit of some kind, here's the pen, here's how you should administer it, or I can do it myself. Enrolling and enlisting people to help you and support you, and providing them with details also helps them feel more confident and more relaxed around you. Otherwise, they might be on tenterhooks the whole time thinking, oh, is that safe? Or is it okay if I order that, or whatever? So have those conversations, I think, are really important to try and get the support you need. And we're not very good at this generally, but asking people for help in advance of when we need it, and say, these are the things that I will need, and these are the things that I think will make it much easier for us to enjoy our dinner out together, if you know what to do should the worst case scenario happen. Absolutely.
And I guess sorry, I was just going to say, like, in some ways we often have people that have allergies and stuff like that come to our shows and watch our shows. Also, a big community for us is families and parents of people with allergies. And would you see that as a different sort of thing? If your child's been recently diagnosed with an allergy or something like that, it's a different sort of anxiety, isn't it, to sort of having it yourself?
Yeah, I think there's a sense of responsibility that you have for the child of someone else in your family. I think one of the first things you should do is definitely, or two different approaches, like a practical approach and an emotional approach. So let's look at the practical stuff first. Find out as much as you possibly can yourself on this particular, diagnosis, this particular allergy. Arm yourself with all the knowledge and the facts and the evidence that you can. I would also In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine last night. Her son had a peanut allergy. It was diagnosed when he was very young, and she made it a family problem. It was not just her as the mother that should know all of this, but actually everyone in the family should be aware. And she tried to communicate the facts to her son without instilling any unnecessary anxiety around that, because obviously what you don't want to do is, on top of this, poor child having this horrible life-threatening experience or potential experience, is having the anxiety of, oh, I could die any second. So you have to find a balance, and of course some situations are more serious than others. And I think from an emotional perspective, consider, and I'm sure every parent would, how your own anxiety is affecting or being picked up by your child. They're very astute and tuned in, more so than sometimes than we want them to be, and to be as honest as you can be about how you are feeling. But you could also say, even though mummy's extremely worried, that doesn't mean you have to be. I want you to be able to go out and play, and together we will find, we can make up some ground rules, what you can do and do not, what you can do safely and things that you should avoid or whatever, and we can have those open conversations. Obviously it depends on how old the child is, but to certainly not take it on yourself. I know a couple of parents who have kind of carried that burden on themselves and wanted to protect the child from knowing anything, but at the same time thinking, well, I have to tell them something because the teachers will know, and maybe other kids will find out. And I think there often comes a sense of shame around allergies. I mean, I have rosacea, so you might see I've got a blotchy neck right now, and I've got makeup on, so you can't see my face flushing and blushing. And that's something that has happened all of my life. All of my life, I have flushed and blushed. As a child, it was quite cute. Into my teenagers and my 20s, people would joke, "Oh, are you an alcoholic?" No. And for a while, it prevented me from public speaking, because I thought, this is just too embarrassing, and I'll have to wear, covers and things like that, and cover my skin. And then eventually, I just call it out and say it's what it is. I think what can happen sometimes is that we have those thoughts and the worry and the anxiety, and it brings a sense of shame. And if you're a parent, oh dear, I've got this, my child shouldn't be like this. We have an idea, don't we, of how things should be, or if it's for ourselves, I shouldn't be like this. I should be able to go out and enjoy spring without having hideous hay fever or whatever it is. And I think instead of that, one other coping mechanism is to focus on what your body can do. And to remember that your allergy doesn't define you. You have lots of other brilliant qualities to bring to the table. There's loads of research on body appreciation, and I used to do little elbow selfies, which sounds really weird, but it's basically trying to focus on random parts of your body that work for you all the time, like your knees. You never give your knees praise and thanks that they deserve for getting you up and down stairs and in and out of bed. But it's really about those tiny things of remembering what you can do and being interested in and grateful for the things that your body can do naturally, regardless of these negative consequences of the allergy.
Okay, that's really great advice. Thank you. And there's one more thing I was actually going to ask you about, which was a lot of our visitors and people watching, often another big group is people with celiac or gluten sensitivity and stuff like that. And that can often sort of lead to having a negative relationship with food, for example. Is this something that you've sort of come across or noticed with people before? The idea of, if there's a certain thing you can't eat, or you've got a negative connotation to certain food, then it sort of leads to that being, because eating such an important part of life. And it can be really difficult if you have a negative association with eating.
Yeah, and I think it can go two ways, perhaps more, but the two I want to mention are you're self-sabotaging in a way. So you think, although I can't have gluten, and I know I shouldn't, I'll just have a little bit, and you might just try a little bit, or I see if I still have the same reactions. And sometimes what we're doing is, we're in that frame of mind, we're denying the reality of what's going on. We want to avoid having to face up to the consequences, and we're perhaps playing or playing with chance. Oh, if I just have a little bit, what's the worst that could happen? Obviously, then you get major setbacks, and that's not a healthy coping strategy. And to the extreme, if you're talking about eating disorders, and there are lots of different, eating disorders can reveal themselves to different degrees in different ways. I feel that if your food allergy is really becoming something that you feel, we call it generalized anxiety. So if you might have a phobia about a specific thing, like a spider, completely understandable. But then suddenly, over time, you become anxious about everything in life. And so I'm sorry, pulling my arms out. It's called generalized anxiety, where you have the same negative, anxious, worried, concerned reaction to everything. And that's what anxiety can do. It can kind of seep into other areas of our life. But with food, it's really about trying to focus on the foods you can eat, the foods you can enjoy. Again, arm yourself with knowledge and facts, and allow yourself to get creative. My partner is trying a FODMAP diet at the moment, and we're really having to get creative because that eliminates the most random food items and random ingredients. What we've previously enjoyed together, like a packet of crisps in front of a movie, you can only have certain flavors and not other flavors, and so you really have to get to know what serves you. And I think that's the key here, Ben, is to think about what's serving you. How are you acting in your best interest? By denying it, or by acting like a kid or a teenager and getting into a mood or a grump, or trying to play with this new boundary isn't helpful. But instead, acknowledge it, learn about it, accept it, and hopefully, get creative and thinking, okay, what are the alternatives? And I think, in the 21st century, we have lots of alternative foods to get to know how to use, and we can be quite imaginative in the kitchen as well these days.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. There's loads of really good practical advice. It's been really nice to get your insight. Where can people find you online and your work and what you do?
So you can find me on my website, jessbaker.co.uk. You can find my Twitter handle is JSGBaker, and I'm on Instagram at @TheRealJessBaker.
Perfect.
And I'm also using hashtag #TameYourInnerCritic a lot. But thanks very much, Ben, for having me.
No, thanks for spending the time, and stick around to the end if you like, because we're going to have a really good cook-along.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, so next up, our second guest from Allergy UK, we have the head of clinical services, Amena Warner.
Hello, good afternoon to you, Ben.
Hi, Amena. How you doing?
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thanks
you for
so
having
much.
Allergy UK.
No worries. Thanks for coming by. So for anyone that's sort of maybe newly diagnosed or hasn't come across them before, could you tell us a little bit about Allergy UK and about the organisation?
Yes. We are the national patient charity dealing with all aspects of allergic disease. In fact, we're the only UK charity that does deal with all aspects of allergic disease. We are an information and support charity, and we have a vision that nobody should die from allergy. And allergic reactions. We also, our mission is to make sure that everyone in the UK takes allergy seriously. And we've got a goal that empowers and educates and it involves research and influence so that we help as many people with allergic disease as we possibly can.
Okay, it's amazing. And what's your role within the organisation?
Well, I'm head of clinical services, which is a huge remit for a national patient charity. So all the clinical content and clinical decision making comes through me. I have got a team, and together we provide the clinical input into the charity. I sit on an executive level, so we plan strategically. We look at our strategic direction over the 5 year periods, and how we can best address allergy within the UK. That is my job in a nutshell, if you like.
Okay, well, we're lucky to have you. It sounds like you're really important. And speaking of important, it's an important time of the year for you guys, right? Because Allergy Awareness Week is coming up, I believe. What have you got planned for that?
Absolutely. We do 2 allergy awareness weeks a year, one in spring and one in autumn. This autumn, we're addressing indoor air quality and looking at what we call aero allergens. So those that become airborne and often will cause.
Oh, we've just lost Amena there. Hopefully she'll pop back in 1 sec.
Sorry about that.
That's
better.
okay.
And so our Allergy Awareness Week is actually next week, which is from the 19th to the 23rd of October. And we have got an allergy house that we have every single day of the week next week. We are concentrating on different aero allergens. So one day we'll concentrate on pet allergy, cats, dogs, other pets. One day we'll concentrate on house dust mite allergy, recognition and how to reduce house dust mites around the home, etc. Mold allergy, that's a significant cause of asthma and allergic rhinitis. So each day of the week, we're going to tackle a different aero allergen, giving lots of top tips, information, etc. We've got some great infographics and content for our website. So please do visit it.
Amazing, brilliant. Thank you. I know the helpline is also a really key part of what you do. For anyone sort of newly diagnosed or new to the charity, how does the helpline support the community?
Well, we have trained helpline advisors that are always there to give information and signpost where, if it's an allergy service that you're wanting to find out where's your nearest allergy service. So perhaps you can have a discussion with your GP, etc., about referral. We can give those type of information. We have the helpline advisors provide a nice, supportive, friendly voice, if you like, a live person. But if you wanted to contact us by email, we respond back quite quickly to emails as well. So there's lots of support for people that are newly diagnosed. We can signpost people to some of our resources. So for young for parents and carers, we've got weaning resources of what to do when, because a lot of parents now are frightened to introduce solids into the diet that might be one of the top allergens, and so they're frightened to introduce peanut, egg, fish, etc. And so these resource materials we've got on our website, the resource weaning pack, can help parents with some practical tips and advice. So our helpline really is pivotal to providing support for anybody who wants some information of any aspects of allergic disease. Food allergy, aero allergens, drug allergy, wasp bee venom, the whole spectrum of allergic disease.
Okay, and it's interesting in talking about families, because I know you're very supportive of families at the charity. Have you noticed a lot of people reaching out for advice, say, since the children went back to school, that sort of time with everything that's going on in the world at the moment?
Yes, we certainly had. We certainly noticed also within lockdown and beyond that our helpline has been much more busier as people can't source often the referrals that they need, or maybe having long waiting times to get to referral, etc. Limitations on diagnostic testing, the skin prick test and the blood test, specific IG testing that people often wait for. So they want some interim advice, and especially when it comes to food allergy, because they want to know, well, what foods can they eat safely, etc. And we know that some of the more allergenic foods contain a lot of nutrients as well. So if they're
Hmm.
cutting things out of the diet, what type of foods can they actually put into the diet to get those type of recommended daily allowances, so that especially with children, that they don't become nutritionally deficient. And it's incredibly important, all the dietetics. And part of our clinical team, we've got an in-house dietitian, and we've got
Hmm.
lots of services to help people if they want to ask information, advice, how we can best support them. So with children going back to school, we did notice an increase of very concerned parents, worried about what does this mean in real terms. Their child hasn't been at school for such a long period of time, just starting back to school. So we did a campaign about check it, don't chance it, about making
Hmm.
sure the adrenaline auto injectors are within the a date that they can be used and not expired. The child hasn't grown and it's the right dose for that particular weight. And so there was a lot of information in there as well. And when lockdown happened and there was a lot of panic buying, etc., we went on the campaign trail to make sure the supermarkets tried to protect the free from foods for people who actually really needed it, because people were just panic buying off shelves. And when you try to source food that hasn't got the allergen that you're trying to avoid, it's very difficult is if there's nothing available on the shelves. So as best we can, we support people, we provide information when parents are going back to school. We've got a school allergy awareness automated program that schools can utilize. Lots of information. We had information about frequently asked questions about COVID, and some of the
Hmm.
symptoms of hay fever might overlap, like cough, tight chest, and things like that. So lots of information. It's a very busy website. Navigate it, get on it, and hopefully provide a lot of information. But if you do want to speak to somebody, our helpline's there for them.
Amazing. So, I mean, it sounds like you guys are more important now than ever with everything that's going on. People are really reaching out even more than they were before, and I know it's always been important, always been really busy. So, where can people go to find more from Allergy UK and to get support that they might need?
Well, our website is www.allergyuk.org. Our helpline is 01322 619 898, and we are here for you and trying to support people with allergy as best we possibly can.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat to us today and giving us all that really useful information. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amina. Bye. Okay, so thanks to Amina and to Jess for your interviews and for your knowledge and your insight. But we're going to finish off now with a cook along from a good friend of the show who's come and cooked for us live at the Allergy and Free From show in London before. It's Allergy Girl Eats and co-founder of Zest, Kortney Kwong Hing.
Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. I'm Kortney, also known as Allergy Girl Eats over on Instagram, but I'm also the co-founder of the online magazine Zestfull, which is an online magazine that celebrates life with food allergies. Today we're going to cook a recipe from this online magazine, and it is the first in our Global Kitchen series. The Global Kitchen series is something we've just started, and I'm very excited to share it with you because it celebrates culture and it celebrates how we can still tap into our culinary roots even if we have food allergies. This recipe comes from the other co-founder of Zestfull, Shala. She has Pakistani heritage and her daughter has multiple food allergies. So she adapted some recipes that her mom always makes so that her daughter can try them and she can still have that connection. So today we're making Rajma red kidney beans. And I have the recipe here and I have all the ingredients prepped. And I'm excited to share it with you because it's a good starter recipe if you're afraid to cook with spices. And I know that a lot of people with food allergies are afraid to cook with spices because they're kind of unknown. And sometimes the ingredients aren't clear and you don't know whether the spices are cut with something or not. So as long as you find a safe brand that you trust, I think this recipe is totally doable and totally easy for you. What we're going to be doing is multiple steps. So why I want to show you this recipe is because it has like a ton of different steps. Sorry, I ripped it. A ton of different steps, and it can look really intimidating at the beginning, but it's really not. And it can show you that even if you have multiple food allergies, you can still enjoy something that's super flavorful, a little bit spicy, and very interesting on the mouth. So let's jump right in. When you're making a recipe that has a lot of steps and a lot of ingredients, the best thing to do is measure everything out, and then you can sit back and enjoy the experience of cooking. So I've done that here, and let's jump right in. What you have to do is you need to start by warming up your pan and adding either canola oil, olive oil, so more of a neutral oil would be good, or you can use ghee. I'm actually using a butter flavored canola oil that I quite like. I got it because it's great for making pancakes. So I'm going to let that oil heat up. I will share the ingredients with you guys here. And also you can get the link, I think it'll be provided for you somewhere in the comments. So once we let that heat up, we're going to let it heat up to medium heat. Then what we're going to do is we are going to add our cumin seeds. Now, unfortunately, I didn't find any cumin seeds, so I'm using just plain old cumin. And I think it'll be okay. I will just, instead of listening for the pop of the cumin seeds, like a little bit like popcorn, I'll just let it cook for a few seconds and then I'll move on to the next step. So I'm just waiting for my oil. It smells like popcorn in here now that I've planted that seed. And what we're going to do is we're going to add our cumin. The cumin is sizzling and it's smelling really good. I'm just going to turn the heat down. I think I got a little ambitious here. And then to our cumin, we are going to be adding onions. So we're adding a cup of onions and we're going to saute those until they are translucent. Woo! That smells so good. I like to continuously mix things and then you can start to smell it and nothing burns. And then once those are translucent, we're going to add ginger and garlic and we're going to add a green chili. The green chili is optional. If you want spice, add it. If you're more of a mild type of person, then you can skip that. There's no problem. In goes the garlic and ginger. And we're going to let that saute for about a minute. And then you add your green chili. I want some spice, so I'm definitely adding that in. And we saute it. Now you see there's not tons of spices here. And what's really nice is if you use whole spices like whole cumin, you know that it's just a whole spice. And the biggest mixture of spices we're going to use is something called gram masala. And we have a recipe for that. So you can make your own, you know exactly what's in it. And they're not afraid of any fillers. I know that there has been bad press on having peanut flour as a filler for certain spices. So if you want to keep it pure, you can always grind your own spices and then you can see everything that is in that powder. So once we've let our chilies cook up a little bit, we are going to add in the tomatoes, the tomato paste, and then we're going to pump up the heat. So this is 4 large tomatoes pureed. You can also use passata or canned pureed tomatoes, that's fine. I'm using fresh tomatoes because that's what the recipe calls for, and it also just adds a little bit more of a fresh live flavor. And then to that we're going to add tomato paste. I can't scrape up there. That's what the back of the spoon is good for. And then what we're going to do is pump up the heat and let that cook down. So the tomato mixture has been cooking down. It's been about 3 or 4 minutes and it's been cooking down on high heat, and you can tell it's visibly thickened up. The tomatoes have gotten much richer in color and more of a deep red now. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in chili, turmeric, and garam masala, which you can find the recipe on our website, and I will share that as well. It's super easy to make. I've made this a couple of times, and it's really nice. And do you know what's interesting is you can read the history of garam masala in our blog, so definitely check that out. That goes in there. And then we stir it up, and you're going to cook it on a medium heat until the raw smell of spice disappears. So you just kind of have a spicy aromatherapy bath while you're making this dish. Oops. And stir it. I like to continuously stir it just because, as you can tell, I'm getting little tomato splatters on my hand, which I get to taste test. It's very nice. And you can see that this recipe is so easy. It looks like a lot of steps, but it's really not. It's just, you know, everything takes a little time. So you need to have maybe an hour to enjoy this cooking process. And really, slow cooking is just a beautiful thing that we don't do enough of in this world, I think. All right, now that this is cooking down, we add the one ingredient that is questionable for your allergies. So I'm adding yogurt. You can add your dairy-free alternative yogurt, or you can actually just skip this stuff altogether. It just depends on you. I'm looking for a little bit more of a creamy texture, and I think that an oat yogurt would work really well in here. I haven't tried any nut yogurts because I'm allergic to those, so I can't tell you, but I'm betting like a cashew yogurt might work as well, just texture-wise. So I'm gonna stir that in and just incorporate, and then we add water and our kidney beans. You're gonna add 2 cans of kidney beans and 1 liter of water. I'm telling you the right news. No, you're adding 2 cups of water. Woo! Almost added a liter of water. That would have been bad. All right, that's nicely incorporated. I'm going to add the kidney beans. I like to rinse and strain my kidney beans just because I don't like any of that goopiness in there. And I also don't like any of the extra salty flavor. So we'll stir that in, and then we're going to add 2 cups of water. I have this handy dandy thing here, so I won't add a liter like I thought I was going to add. There we go. So we're stirring that in, and I almost forgot the bay leaf. Pop that in there. And then you're going to cover it and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. You don't want your kidney beans to get too mushy. You want them to stay firm. So I'm going to pop that on a medium heat and let it simmer, and we'll be back in 15 minutes. So our beans have been boiling for about 15 minutes. It is smelling super aromatic in here. I'm going to turn down the heat just because I don't want the splatter to get on my face like it seems to have been doing since we've been making this. And I'm going to give it a stir. And it is looking nice and thick, and the kidney beans are still holding their shape. So what we do next is we take a 1/4 cup of the beans. I'm just going to drain them with their sauce. That was a little less than a 1/4 cup there. Throw a 1/4 cup of the beans in a bowl, and with a potato masher or a spoon or a fork, just give them a good squish. And that'll just thicken up the sauce a tiny bit more. Left that good in there. There we are. And then you can scrape that back in there. Give it a stir. Now, if it's looking too thick for you, then you can add more water. If it's not looking thick enough, then let it cook down a little bit longer. And to serve, you're just going to add a squeeze of lemon. Give that a stir. And it's done. So this is great over a nice bowl of rice with a helpful garnishing of cilantro, or if cilantro tastes like soap to you, parsley, or if neither of those sound good, maybe some mint. Try it. Tell me what you think. I will have the recipe for you, and we hope you enjoy.
Amazing. Thank you so much to Kortney for recording that for us. I just want to draw your attention one last time to the competition that's running this week from our friends at Hunt and Gather. So whether you're paleo, keto, gluten-free, low carb, banting, sugar-free, dairy-free, or just simply love great tasting food with real food ingredients, you'll want to win this bundle that includes a full range of their new unsweetened sauces. If you'd like to enter the competitions, click on the link in the video description to find out how. So that's it for us this week. We're going to be back on the 20th of November. So keep an eye on our social channels to find out who's going to be on next episode. I just want to say thanks to Jess and thanks to Amena. And of course, thanks to Kortney for giving your time, your insight and your skills. And to everyone watching, thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, free from us. See you next month. Bye.